Welcome to a course on object-oriented programming. In today's video, we will cover inheritance. So these are the contents of the today's video: introduction and terms used in inheritance, advantages, inheritance and accessibility, and various types of inheritance. Now, what is inheritance? So, the language mechanism by which one class acquires the properties of another class is called as inheritance. So these properties may include the data and the functions that are there inside the class. Okay. Now, the few terminologies are there. That is, one is the base class or super class. Okay. So the class, what is base class? It is the class from which you want to acquire the properties. Okay. Then second term is derived class. So what is the derived class? So derived class is the class which gets the properties from the base class. Okay. So basically inheritance is used for the purpose of reusability of the existing class. This is the very important. Now let us see an example that there is a class named as father class. There is another class named as mother class. Okay. Now father has properties, that is, a father is a guitar player or a father is an orator, good orator. Okay. Similarly, mother is having properties like she is a good cook and she's also a great singer. Okay. So these are the properties of father and mother class, which are called as the base class. So this is base class 1 and this is base class 2. You can also call this as superclass. Okay. Now there are two base classes. Now the child acquires some properties from father and mother. Okay. So this child one, suppose, which is a derived class or subclass, acquired the properties of oratorship from the father. Okay. Now combining, let's say, guitar player and singer, the child has acquired the properties of musician. Okay. He is a good singer also, and is a guitar player also. And the third property, that is athlete, he is a good athlete. Okay, so this is his own property. It is not acquired from the base class. Okay. So using this inheritance, you can also extend the properties of existing classes. Okay. Now what are the advantages of this? So we can reuse the methods and data of existing class. Okay. Then we can extend the existing class by adding new data and new methods. Okay. And you can also modify the existing class by overloading its methods with your own implementations. As we have seen that this guitar player property or orator property is reused. Okay. As orator is here, then this is a musician. So this is reusing the data of the base classes. And this modify or this extend. So you can extend this as well, that is athlete is the child class is extended by adding athletes, which is his own property. Okay, you can also modify the existing classes by overloading. Now inheritance and accessibility. So there are methods of accessing private data. Okay, so let us see an example. So we have taken two types of access, that is direct access and what is indirect access. We have to see that first. So let us see an example. That is, you have created a class student, and in the private section of the class you have name and roll number. Okay. And in public section of the class you have get data function to get the values of name as well as roll number. Okay. And you have a void main function. You are declaring an object S of class student. Okay. And you are calling that get data function with that object name, that is s dot get data. Okay. So this type of access, s dot get data, is called as a direct access. Why it is called as direct access? Because you can directly call the get data function using the object name. Okay. But suppose in this case, you write like s dot roll is equals to 20, suppose. So this will not work because it is the private data of the class and hence it cannot be accessed by the external functions, and hence this will not work. Okay. So this s dot get data will work because get data is in the public section. So this is called as direct access to get data function, and through get data function you are accessing the name and roll number. Okay. And hence it is called as indirect access. Okay, through the public function. Okay. Now methods of accessing the public data. In the same example we have taken, that is, now what I have done, what is the change? I have only obtaining the name in the get data function. Okay, and I'm assigning the role from the main function. Since the character name and integer roll number is in the public section, now it can be accessed by the functions inside the class as well as it can be accessed from outside the class. Okay. So we have created one object of class student, that is S. So we are directly accessing the get data function, that is the direct access. Okay. And S dot roll is equal to 20. So this is also direct access. You're directly accessing it because it is given in the public section. And this is indirect access. Okay. So your name is, you are accessing your name via get data function. So that's why this is called as indirect access. So coming back to our inheritance, let us see how to derive a class from the base class. So the syntax for class derivation is, first we have to write class keyword, then followed by the derived class name, then a colon, then a public keyword. You will come to this later on, and then followed by the base class name. And then after that, this is the body of your derived class. For example, you have to declare a child class from parents class. So a class keyword followed by a derived class name, then colon, then public keyword, and then your base class name. Okay, and then followed by the body of your derived class. But before deriving a class, you first have to declare and define your base class. For example, you have to derive a class parents. Okay, and then you have to give the body of the parent class above this. Okay, and then you will be deriving the child class after writing the parent class. Now we will discuss about this public keyword. Okay. Now depending on which keyword you use over here, that is public, private or protected, the type of inheritance changes. Okay. Now if you use the public keyword, so derived class objects can access only the public data or functions of the base class. Okay. Means you have, in this case, suppose you have derived a child class from the class parents, then the public data of the parent class, okay, will be only accessible from using the child class objects. We will be seeing this in detail with the help of example. So second type of inheritance is private inheritance. In private inheritance, derived class objects cannot access the public functions or data of the base class. And what happens in protected members? In protected inheritance, derived class objects and friends of that class can access protected members of the base class. Okay, let us see this with the help of an example. So first example is your public inheritance. Okay, class derivation with the public keyword. When you have two classes, class result is derived from the class student. Okay, so student is the base class and result is the derived class. And we have derived it publicly, that is using public keyword. Then all public data functions of the student class, which is the base class, will be available in the public section of the result class, which is a derived class, and hence can be accessed by derived class objects. Let us see this with the help of example. So I have given the student as a class name to base class. Then I have declared two variables, name and roll number, in the private section of the base class. Then in the public section, I have added one function, that is void get data, to get the values for name and roll number. Now I have declared a result class, which is a derived class, with a public keyword from student. Okay. Now I have not written anything inside this class result, only this public keyword. Okay. Now as per the derivation using a public keyword, what will happen? This complete public section, that is only the get data function in this case, will be available in the public section of derived class, that is a result. Okay. You need not to write it all the lines of the course. Okay, that is the feature of reusability. You have already written the feature in the base class and you are reusing that feature or function in the derived class. Okay. Now using in the main void main function, I have declared an object of a derived class. Okay, please focus. Here I have derived an object of result class, which is a derived class. Okay, and I am calling r.getData. Okay, now what will happen? This will access the same function which is declared and defined in the base class. Okay, but since we have derived the class from the base class, this public functions and data will be available in the derived class as well. Okay, and hence you can access r.getData using the object of derived class. Okay, so this will access the function. Okay, means what happened? The public function of base class becomes the public function of the derived class. And one more very important point is private members cannot be inherited in any type of inheritance. Okay, you cannot access private members directly Okay, so this character name and int roll number will there in the base class only. Okay, as a private. You cannot inherit private members. Okay, so the data such as passwords, username in some cases will always be private type. Okay, so this is public inheritance. Now the second type of inheritance is private inheritance. Class derivation with the private. Okay, so what happens in this case? Class result is derived from class student privately. In this case, all public data or functions of the student will be available in private section of the result class. Okay, what will happen? Let us see the program, that is class student is there. In private, you have only one variable, that is character name. In getData function, you are trying to get the value for that variable. Okay, you have declared the result class, or you have derived the result class from the base class student privately. Okay, now this public data of the base class will be available in the private section of the derived class, and we have already seen the private members cannot be accessed using the object name. Okay, for example, if you write here r dot get data, so it will give you an error because private variables or functions cannot be accessed externally. It cannot be accessed by the external functions, and hence it will give you an error. What I have done, just to call the get data function indirectly, I have created one more function. This is the extensibility part of inheritance. Okay, I have extended the class derived class result with additional features. That is, let us say I have added one more function call just to call the getData function. Okay, now this getData function is available where? Since it is declared privately, this function is available in the private section of the derived class. Okay, so just to call that private function, I have declared one more function, that is this call function. Now since the call function is in the scope of derived class result and it is declared in the public section of the class, it can be accessed by its object, and hence r dot call will work. Okay, so this r dot call will call your this function, and as soon as it enters into this function, this get data will be called. Okay, so in this way the private inheritance works. The third type of inheritance is the protected inheritance, that is the class derivation with protected keyword. Okay, now what happens in protected inheritance? Suppose class result is derived from class student in a protected way, then all public as well as protected data or functions of the student at the base class will be available in protected section of the result class. Okay, so you have declared public section. Similarly, you can also declare protected data. Okay, similar to private public, you can also have some protected data, that is, let us say, integer roll number. Okay, so you can also declare protected data in the class. So if you derive another class result with this should be protected. Okay, this should be protected in a protected way from student class. Then the public data, that is this getData function, as well as this protected data will be available in the protected region of your class result. Similar to private data, protected data cannot be accessed by external functions. Okay, and hence you have to indirectly call it. So for that, I have added one function call similar to your previous example. Okay, so you are indirect. You have first called the function call, and through call function, it is you are calling this get data function, which is available in the protected region of your class. Okay, so just to sum it up, let us see the summary. On this vertically, you have the class members, that is public member of the class, protected members of the class, or private members of the class. And horizontally, you have the type of inheritance. That is whether you have derived the class using public keyword or protected keyword or the private keyword. So let us see. If you have derived the class using public keyword, the public data will be of the base class will be available in the public section of the derived class. Then protected members of the base class will be available in the protected members of the derived class, and private members, in any case you cannot access it. Okay, so private members are cannot be inherited. Okay. If it is a protected type of inheritance, then public members of the base class will become protected members of the derived class. Similarly, protected members of the base class will become protected members of the derived class. Okay. If you derive the class privately, then public as well as protected members of the base class will become private members of the derived class. Okay. So I hope you have understood the basic concept of inheritance. We will be seeing all the types of inheritances, that is public, protected, private inheritance, with the help of coding. Okay, in the next video. So you have to see the next video as well. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Okay, for more videos on object oriented programming, please do subscribe the channel Untwisted Learning. Thank you and have a nice day.